Hello, welcome back to my book club. Today we're going to do a 2025 recap for what we were reading and say some goals for 2025. We're going to go ahead and start with the recap, but first please subscribe. There is approximately exactly 343 of you who have watched both of my last two videos. Literally, they both have the exact same amount of views, so thank you. I wish we were all in a room together. Can you imagine being in a room with 343 people for a book club? I brought some books with me so that it doesn't feel less like there's no book here. And I have Quicksilver, Guild, House of Beating Wings, and When the Moon Hatched, which were my 4 very favorite books from this year. Please comment, you guys, please. I'm posting these videos because I want to talk to you guys about the books. So if you comment about them, we can talk about them, and I think that that would be really fun, but that's just me. So also, you're gonna notice all of these videos, not that any of you care, but all these videos are being filmed on my phone and edited in iMovie. So I'm doing my best to like add the normal flair that I normally would with like the zoom ins and the zoom outs and like the silly wonky things I do with the editing. I can't do that much of it because the only time I can edit is really when my son is sleeping, and that's usually in my arms or next to me in bed. So I can't cut on DaVinci on my computer or film on my camera because that's too much setup time and too much process time. So thank you for being in my mommy book club, the mommy book club. This year, in 2024, last year, I finished 67 total books. I got halfway through Goldfinch, which is the final series, the final book in the Plated Prisoner series. I only hit such a hard wall because of the fact that there is no audiobook yet for Gold or Goldfinch. So I literally was just reading it, like raw dog reading it, which is how most people read, but I cannot read in the bulk that I can when I can also switch using WhisperSync to read and listen at the same time. I'm reading. Oh, I need to do the dishes? Okay, let me put in my AirPod and keep reading. You know what I mean? I need to still finish Goldfinch. All of my favorites are House of Beating Wings, Powerless, which I don't own. I would love to own the series, but it's not so like gripping for me that I like it didn't change my life. Like, it was really fun, but it didn't change my life. The Night Ends in Fire, so good. I literally just made a video about all these books if you want to watch that one. Iron Flame specifically, When the Moon Hatched, One for My Enemy, the Everking series, so good. Any Allie Hazelwood book. Quicksilver, and then Plated Prisoner. Anyways, those are my favorites. And then my DNFs. Okay, so all of these DNFs happened in 2024. None of them were in 2023, which is when I started really reading. 2023 all the way into 2024 was just Sarah J. Maas books. Like, there was nothing else. Okay, so we have Fate Breaker. I wrote, the reason for this one was there was not enough romance, sad face, and Victoria Aveyard does talk on her Instagram about how she doesn't like write a whole lot of on the page romance, so it's just like the vibe is like that's what she does. She doesn't do that, and I like to read that, so like, you know. Trial of the Sun Queen, all I wrote was what's even happening right now, like be so for real. I just remember you start Trial of the Sun Queen, skip like 1 minute ahead if you don't want to hear this. You start it, she's in jail, she's like sleeping with this one guy in jail who she gets soap from, but then this evil girl who's also in jail steals her soap, and that starts a riot where she like beats up that girl, and then she's tossed into like an isolation pit portal which spits her out in a new world, and then in that world this like lady picks her up and she's like, you're late for the competition, and it's like, what competition? She's like, oh yeah, the competition's to see if you live or die, and it's like, what is happening right now? I just had to stop watching it. I mean, 5 Broken Blades, I would like to finish this at some point, I should say. This is a temporary DNF, and it's only because all of the people paired off like instantly, like literally within 15 chapters, each person already had a buddy, and you know it's going to be romantic. So The games gods play, I DNF'd this because I just wrote obnoxious female character. It felt very Violet Sorrengail, except like I just did not. There can only be one Violet in your life, you know what I mean? And I love Violet, but also like her in Fourth Wing was just really obnoxious. And then Under the Oak Tree, super sad because I was way excited to read that. I would get all of the webtoon advertisements on Instagram constantly. Yeah, the actual comic that they like, or the book that they published, because there's the comic and then they made it into a light novel, which is where you take a manga and you make it just words. You make it a book. They call it a light novel. So yeah, I read the light novel. Well, I started to. I think I got like 25 chapters in before I just could not do it anymore because she's just constantly being like R-worded. Constantly. Like, I'm not even joking, you guys. It's not like even dubious consent. It's just straight up unconsensual. Constantly, it's all the book is, and he's like mean. And in the comics, that's not how he is. So I don't know what that was about, but that's my wrap up for 2024. Now let's talk about 2025. 2025 is going to be very interesting because unlike 2024, I have a lot under my belt at this point. So 2023, I started reading with Assassin's Blade, but all the way through Throne of Glass, then tried Fourth Wing. Hated it. I could totally just have hated it though, because like you can't read Throne of Glass and then expect to like anything else after that. Like, I feel like there should be a waiting period where you like just take a break and then you keep going, because it was like I feel like there's a flow, and I want to make a whole video about this at some point, like how like reading in this order so you don't get like tired of books, or you like don't dislike a book for no reason, because that happened to me a lot. I feel like I would follow books up with like the wrong book and I would just not like that book. Then I went back and I did ACOTAR, Crescent City, which I have such mixed feelings about Crescent City. Going into this year, I have read fiction romance as well as just fantasy, as well as romantasy, and then also fantasy that has some romance elements. And I just want to specify, I do not consider all fantasy books with romance as romantasy. These books that I have right here have such strong elements of fantasy in them that in my opinion you could take out the romance and they would still be so freaking good. I've also found that I don't think I share the same taste as most people who read like what they would consider romantasy. At least of the 4 booktubers that I do watch, I do not agree with them about like anything, but I still like watching them because I like seeing what their opinion is, and they feel safe because they don't read what I read, and when they do sometimes try out the things that I read, they don't like it. So it makes me feel like, okay, I'm not gonna get ruined by watching any of their videos. So I don't know, I feel like with the book stuff, you guys, I feel like I'm doing it right. I didn't form my own opinion about anything. I was like, oh dude, like what are these different creators that I like, and let me get those, because you see those plants in the wild and it feels like you're seeing a celebrity. I can't explain to you, but if you were part of the houseplant craze, like you get it. When I originally got into reading, which I have talked about this a couple times before, when I first started reading, it was 2023. I walked into a Barnes & Noble because I wanted to keep reading books, because when my mom had been here, she was reading a lot of books. I don't know, just watching her sit on the couch and read, it was very stabilizing for me, because it was like, no matter what I'm doing, I know that like when I need my mom for something, like for care after the surgery, or like I need help with eating because I had to eat a special diet because of my gallbladder dying. So it was like, no matter what, she's on the couch reading, and that was really comforting. And when she went home, I wanted to keep that comfort with me. So I was like, okay, I'll go see what books I like and then I'll read them, and it will feel like I still have that bit of her with me. After meandering around for like 3.5 hours, not exaggerating, on the phone with my mom, looking at books, like reading the backs of the covers, finally came across the Sarah J Maas table. And yeah, there's like a whole table, and it had ACOTAR and Throne of Glass on it, and I was very drawn to Throne of Glass, so I picked it up and completely discovered it organically. I did not know it was popular and then start reading it like because other people liked it. Straight up, I was just like, oh my gosh, like a death competition where like the prince is handsome, that sounds awesome. I picked that up, and I made a rule from there on out that I did not want to listen to other people's reviews of books before reading them. I did not want to read reviews, and I did not want to like look up, I mean, it's just basically reviews. Like, I don't want to know anyone else's opinion about anything that I'm reading. I want to look at the back of a book, say like, hey, I liked this or I didn't like it, and then go from there. Reading goals for 2025. I'm actually so excited to make this book because I'm so excited to make this video because whenever I would sit down and like maybe start to think about making something like this for houseplants, because those of you who don't know, who are like coming to my channel and you have no idea what I've done in the past, I was a full-time houseplant content creator for 4.5 years, and I completely took care of me and my husband. He ended up quitting his job because I supported us completely, and he was able to work on learning programming and doing his own content creation. That lasted until 2022 and a half, when I started having some like really serious mental health issues and I needed to be supported at that point. So then we swapped, and then he worked and then I stopped making content, and I've pretty much not really been making content for the last 3 years. I'll like post sometimes, but there's literally a video where I literally made it and I titled it, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Whenever I would sit down and make, you know, the years turning over, hey, what did we do? I couldn't think of anything. I was like, dude, I don't know what my houseplant goals are. Like, I guess spend less money. I guess collect these other plants. You guys, I'm so proud of myself. I have completely gone into this so low-headed. Like, I'm not taking anyone else's opinions. I'm not watching other people's videos. I'm literally just doing what I like. And I know that at least 343 of you like it. So that feels so good because I went from getting like 12,000 views on a video within like a 24-hour period to like feeling like 340 is like so good, and it's fun. It feels like we started over. So I've just completely gone on my own solo journey, and so there's been so much to like think about. The biggest thing I made when I went from houseplants to books was I absolutely did not want books to be my new houseplants where I'm buying like a bunch of them. So a lot of the goals that we're going to be talking about are very like anti-purchasing physical books because I read everything on my Kindle. And most of the time when I'm reading, I'm actually reading on my phone, which I can't show you because I'm using it to record right now. So like I am always reading on here. So any books that I'm buying are like superfluous, little like, hey, we loved this and I want to be able to hold this book. Like I love this so much. So I'm having so much fun filming too. I feel like you can just tell in my face like how excited I am to be like doing this stuff again. These aren't even really goals. These are like my rules. This is like my rubric for books in 2025. Some of this is content creation and others of it is just like my reading rules. Okay. You may buy up to 10 hardcover books of your favorite series. No more than that. I feel like 10 is a really good number and it's gonna make me not feel stressed out. And the number one thing I learned with my therapist was to not set goals that are just gonna stress you out or make you feel like anxious about not completing them. You want to set smart, actual accomplishable goals and not set rules for yourself that set you up to fail. On here, I also have 3 books that I already have written down that I know I am going to be purchasing this year. The first one is a hardcover of Onyx Storm. I'm also going to be purchasing a physical copy signed of The Ballad of Falling Dragons, which is the second book in When the Moon Hatched. And then I'm also going to be buying House of Burning Frost, which is, I think, the 6th book in the House of Beating Wings series. In the Kingdom of Crows series, it's, I think, the 6th book. Do not buy duplicates of books you already own unless you sell the other copy. I started doing this with Throne of Glass. I think I have 4 or 5 different versions of Throne of Glass. Do not buy any books you have not read yet, no matter how much you think you like them, and no matter how pretty they are. So this happened with The Darkening, is a physical book that I own that I haven't been able to get rid of because it was one of the first physical books I ever purchased, and it is so, not only so beautiful, but every time I read the little blurb, I'm like, this is gonna be really good when I finally read it. A book I almost did this with is actually, it's called Bloodguard, and it's a pretty popular book I think right now, but it looks like a Throne of Glass from the male perspective. But I am not gonna buy it because I haven't read it. And now I have a limit. So it's like, okay, we need to think clearly. We have 10 book purchasing tokens. 3 of them are theoretically already taken up. So like this is going to be a long year. I read 67 books this last year, so we need to really think carefully and critically before we buy physical copies. Try to purchase any hardcovers directly from the author as much as possible. I do this with Olivia Wildenstein, and I talk about her a lot because I love her so much. She's the one that wrote the Kingdom of Crows series, and I also just love buying from her because she gives you like little goodies. And also the original cover, oh, so good, that she's commissioned for her characters. It's a foil bookmark. There is actual reason to purchase from the authors as well because they make more money from the sale because they're not splitting it with anyone. Also, you could get signed copies. No goal of an amount to actually read. I have read enough, so I don't feel like I need to set a goal to physically achieve. So this one is going to be pretty big for me, I think, because I am like a numbers girl. It's like, oh, I want to do this much of this. Like, oh, 50 books is good. Like, from September to December of 2023, I read 20 books. And then from January to December of 2024, I read 67 books. So I'm reading a lot. I don't feel like I need to set a goal to like read a certain amount because I read enough. And I don't want to find myself at the end of the year with an unchecked box because it's like, oh, I set to read 100 and I only read 52. Like, that's not going to make me feel good. So I'm not setting an actual goal, and I don't want to get later in this year. So my goal is to not set a goal. Does that make sense? Because this could change, because I feel like this right now, but then like maybe I get really close to 100 later and it's like, okay, let's set that goal. And it's like, no girl, we can just read and be happy about it. Plus, sometimes I get into these ruts where I'm just like, yeah, I kind of just want to watch YouTube for 2 weeks and I don't really want to read. So, and that usually only happens when the books I'm reading don't also have an audiobook companion. Try to physically read more instead of listen so much. Listening is only helpful while driving, showering, chores, etc. Kai is getting older now, so I do not want to be absent mentally when he's awake and playing and moving around. I want to be there, like, actually in those moments with him. So before, he would pretty much just like sleep all the time, but now we're hitting a point where he's like a cognitive person. Like, he's gonna be in 17 days, he's gonna be 12 months old. It's so crazy to think about. So explore other genres of books, but don't stress about this. If it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, don't force it. I don't know if you can tell, I feel like my goals are really relaxed. They're like, hey girl, here's some things that'd be cool, but like if they don't happen, that's fine. Never force yourself to read if you're not feeling it. Finish the Throne of Glass videos this year. Let me tell you, you guys, there is literally nothing I hate more than when I'm watching like one of those big video series where it's like telling you all about the Cruel Prince in like 2 hours or less. And it's like, okay, yeah. But then you get to the end of the video and there's no videos for the rest of them. I say that because literally there's this girl who like honestly re-sparked my love for doing this. Every time people make these videos, I'm like, dude, I love this meta so much. I really want to make these, but they take a lot of time and I have a baby, so it's a little bit more difficult. But this girl in particular, oh my gosh, I'm living for her. She's got 2 videos on the Cruel Prince series, that the Folk of the Air, I think is what it's called, and I know so much about it from her, and she's posting the 3rd one soon, so I'm very excited. So yes, I want to finish all of the Throne of Glass videos this year. The only exception I'll make is Kingdom of Ash, because that book is over 1,000 pages long and one video on that might be like really difficult, so I might break it up into 2. But I do know that when I get to Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn, I want to film it as a tandem read. I think that would be really fun because a lot of people struggle with a tandem read. So I don't know, I kind of think that'd be like really fun to do, like make a whole world map, show where everyone's at, like the girl who does Cruel Prince does. I thought that was so fun. And we like, here's where we're at, here's where this person's at, here's, you know. So plus I've always wanted to do the tandem read, and I didn't discover the tandem read until after I'd already finished everything because I was too afraid to look up anything Throne of Glass at all until I finished it, because I did not want to spoil myself for anything. And I'm so glad I did not look anything up because oh my god, I would have ruined so much. I really want to finish those this year. That way you guys can see them all and you can just go through them. Be more willing to DNF things. I usually really try not to, mostly because books cost money and it's like, okay, what, you just spent $35 on a book and you're not even gonna read it? It's kind of cringe. Read even more off Kindle Unlimited, and then I wrote in parentheses, I don't even know how this is possible because I already read almost all my books off Kindle Unlimited. Like, you want to spend $12 and read 6 books and read the best 6 books you've ever read this year? Plated Prisoner is completely on Kindle Unlimited, and so is the Everflame series. The Everflame series is super good, and if you like Throne of Glass and ACOTAR, you'd probably really like that series. Continue with not letting other people's opinions on books sway me. Continue to form my own opinions about the books and the things that I want to read. Continue to not watch reviews. That one I just added on there, like, hey, let's continue to do this thing that I think is really good for us. And then the final one, okay, final one. Make booktube friends. Let's be friends. You don't have to have a booktube channel to be booktube friends. Like, let's just talk. Like, this one girl, she left a comment the other day. She's like, oh my god, I read Fireborn after Throne of Glass and I think I hated it. And I was like, I responded instantly. I was like, I read Iron Flame or Fourth Wing right after I finished Throne of Glass and I hated it too. So like, maybe it's not even, like, maybe it's just following Throne of Glass up with anything is just like, you can't, it's gonna ruin whatever book it is you're trying to read. So yes, that is my reading goals for 2025. I thought about setting like, make this many videos a week or a month or whatever, but I don't want to do that. I'm just gonna make videos as I can. Again, don't want to be setting myself up to fail. Thank you for watching. Some little jazz love hands. Please leave comments. I am literally only posting these videos because you can opt in to talking about books, and maybe everyone out there is like me and it's like, hey, I don't want to talk about these books because it's gonna spoil them. So I will be making spoiler and also spoiler free content. So okay, love you guys. Thanks for watching again. Please subscribe. Okay, bye.